Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today we are actually going to dyno tune my Miata, finally. We got all the bugs worked out with the Speedy EFI ECU and the Tuner Studio firmware not matching the tune, and just some weird other little bugs that we had to work out with the computer. Now when I'm making changes to the ECU, it is actual changes, and it's working good. So I'm very happy about that. And yesterday I was actually at the shop and I put the car on the dyno, and I just wanted to see like where the turbo kit was at and everything like that. So I did a pull on the dyno, and this CX Racing turbo kit out of the box made around 4 pounds of boost, and way up top, high RPM, the wastegate was actually creeping because I think they have it set so loose that eventually the turbo bypasses the wastegate at high RPM, and it ended up creeping to around 8 pounds of boost way up at the high RPM. So my dyno curve did not look the greatest. It did one of these where it would come up and it would level at 4 pounds, and then right at the top of the pull it would come up to peak power, right where the boost was creeping. And yesterday, or last night I should say, the car was making around 180 wheel horsepower with the wastegate kind of how it was acting there. So what I did is I actually adjusted the wastegate rod. So there's actually an adjustment right there that you can see. There's a jam nut, and you can spin the rod in or out depending on if you want more boost or less boost. This wastegate actually requires the boost source to go to the top of the diaphragm, which pushes the rod out and opens the wastegate behind the plate here. So I adjusted that rod and I actually shortened it, so now it requires more pressure to open that flap. So I did that, and I got the boost right around 170 kPa, which is kind of right around like 9 pounds or so. I'll actually look up exactly how much it is. It's about 10 pounds of boost, 170 kPa, 10 pounds of boost, and the car's making pretty good power. It is on ethanol with a kind of a base timing table that I got from DC Works. If you guys haven't checked out his YouTube channel, definitely go check it out. The guy's name is Dwight, and he helped me tremendously yesterday try to get this thing cranking, starting better, and a ton of other bugs that I was having with it. I may actually do a video soon on some of the bugs that we had with the base file that came with the Speedy EFI, and maybe, you know, if you guys are interested in seeing that, I would gladly show it. But like I said, I'll show you the timing table that we currently have. It is fairly conservative still. I'm just working out some of the bugs on the fuel map. This map was definitely a little bit rich, up at, you know, say above 140 kPa. It had a ton of fuel in it just to keep the motor safe, but we're actually trying to utilize those cells. So I had to go in and adjust my VE above 140 kPa, mainly like 160 and above. I was adjusting, and it's still a tidbit fat, so I had to remove some more fuel above like 6,500 alone, because it was good air fuel until about 6,500, and then it started getting rich. And I'll actually show you the dyno curve here in a second that kind of relays what I'm saying. And for the spark table, right around 170 kPa is going to be between these two columns here, or rows. And we're running between 22 and 21, or 23 and 21 degrees. So we're probably right around 22 degrees of ignition timing at 10 pounds of boost, and that seems to be working fairly well. We may try to add some timing, considering this car is on ethanol. This is a pump gas timing map that we're using, just to be safe. I always run ethanol on all my cars just because E85 is kind of a godsend for a turbo car, no matter what car it is. It's just a godsend for engines in general. So with that timing map and the air fuel getting rich up top, we still managed to make 223 horsepower to the wheels. At 6,500 RPM was our peak. That's kind of where I got out of it. I didn't really rev it any farther than that. I didn't really see a need. I'm still kind of just tuning on it. But we're going to do another pull right now with some more fuel pulled out of it in those higher RPM cells and see if we can't get it to respond to the fuel change. If it makes more power, that's going to be a good sign to show that this car does not like a 10.8 air fuel. It's probably going to like around a 12.0 on E85. So these are the runs that we are currently at. This is the first run that I did with that base file, and you can definitely tell it was nosing over very hard up top because it was so rich. So like I said, all this change is right here between the green and the blue was me trimming fuel, and you can see it picked up power everywhere. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. So now I'm actually going to be trimming even more fuel out of this thing to see if we can bump up past the green mark on the same boost level and same timing amount. So we're going to try another pull, but honestly, this graph looks amazing. The graph that I was showing last night, I don't have it because I actually had to reboot my computer and I lost the run from last night, but it did one of the maneuvers where the boost would come up right here and it would level and then it would come back up to that peak. So it had a dead spot in the middle, and I actually drove the car around with that setup, and you could definitely tell, like, up top it started to come alive and it started to be fun, but you know, in the middle, in the mid-range where this car kind of lives, it was dead. It just kind of felt flat, and you had to really spin it up to get it to be fun. So this is a bone stock 1.6 liter NA Miata engine. It has the tubular turbo kit from CX Racing. I actually did an install on it like the last couple of videos. But the car also has a set of Hunter-tuned 550cc injectors, E85 Walbro 450 fuel pump in the tank, and a 2.5-inch mandrel bent down pipe to a 3-inch straight pipe all the way back, and it's all mandrel bent, and it comes out here at the tailpipe. So it sounds pretty wild and it should be a ton of fun, but enough babbling. Let's get to tuning and seeing what kind of power we can make with this little Miata. Like I said, first up is we're just changing some fuel around and we'll see what kind of power difference it makes. So on that run, the car did a little bit better. It's running around a 12.2, 12.0 air fuel until about 5,000, 5,500, and then it just dives down to like an 11.0, and then way upstairs it goes into the 10s air fuel still. So it is still rich, and I'm still playing with the map to try to make some more power. Alright guys, so that last run that we just did ended up making a new record on the car of 225 horsepower. The pull prior was 223, so pulling that little bit of fuel out did help in a couple areas. Like right here in the middle of the, like between 5,000 and 6,000, it did pick up a few horsepower. Then it kind of leveled off to where the last pull was, and I spun the car just a little bit higher in the RPM, to kind of see where this car is going to taper power off. And it looks like right around 6,900 is where it's going to start to fall off in power. So now I'm going to try and add 2 degrees of timing above like 5,500 RPM just to see if it's going to respond to ignition timing, being that it's on E85. Like I said, this is a good pump gas timing map. And it's kind of just a good general rule to start around 28 to 30 degrees naturally aspirated at 0 pounds of boost, and every pound of boost above that to pull a degree out for pump gas. So I mean, right around 10 pounds of boost, you know, would be around 20 degrees of timing. And with the change that I'm going to do, we'll be running around 24. It's on 22 right now. We're going to try 24 and see if it responds. And if it does, we'll just see how much it responds by. If it only is a minimal amount of power that we're gaining with that 2 degrees, we'll probably pull it back down to where it is. But if it gains a lot of power, say like 10 horsepower or something, we'll definitely keep that timing in it and maybe give it another degree. It's all, you know, it's all just playing with it on the dyno to see what responds well and what responds not well. You know, if you're only gaining like a horsepower or 2 from 2 degrees, it's definitely on a falling edge of timing where it's not going to, it's not really liking that timing, you know what I mean? So we got the car cooled off a little bit now. I'm going to add that timing in, and we're going to try it again. And then after that, I'm going to give it a couple turns on the wastegate and see if we can run around 14 pounds of boost and see where our power ends up being. I know these little 1.6 liters, they have a pretty small connecting rod, so I'm trying to be conservative with my timing down low at peak torque. So if we actually look at torque, our peak torque is right around 4 grand. You know, right when the turbo really spools up, hits peak torque of about 200 foot-pounds. There we go, now this looks a little better. So it hits peak torque of around 200 foot-pounds, right around 4 grand here. You can see the red is the torque, and then these other ones are horsepower. So peak torque comes flying in, and we want to make this kind of a gradual torque increase. This little spike right here is definitely hard on the bottom end, but it's not making enough torque to where I think it's really going to hurt anything. So anyways, we're just going to focus on horsepower for now and dial the car in that way. It's a little bit easier to understand and easier to see what changes are actually doing what. So like I said, without further ado, we're going to get in the car, add 2 degrees of timing, and go again. And this last pull that made 225 was 11.5 air-fuel ratio, and it was about a 12.0 to 12.5 air-fuel coming into boost. Once it came into full boost, it was around 11.6, 11.5. So that's where I'm going to leave it for now. It may pick up a little bit of power if I went up to a 12.0 at full boost, but I think it'll be all right. So like I said, we're not going to touch the fuel map. We're just going to add timing here, 2 degrees to be exact, up top above 5,500, and we'll see what it does to the power curve. So right here, I was definitely changing way more than just the ignition timing. I kind of spaced out and just started diving into doing more tuning on the car. You'll see here in a second that I was blipping the throttle quite a bit to try to adjust the tip-in, which is the throttle transition fueling. And you'll see here coming up that I also did a pull, and the car actually lost power and got richer. So there was actually some air temp enrichment stuff on the tune that I didn't quite catch prior to this pull and all the runs before it. The temperature just wasn't high enough in the engine bay where the temperature sensor is located to actually reach those points on the tune. seemed like it got richer up top again for some reason. It was like 11.5, 11.6. Maybe I just spun it a little higher that time. We'll find out here in a second. But yeah, I definitely did spin it a little higher, and it did not respond to the timing at all. So we made exactly 225 horsepower again, and I'll actually compare the last two runs with you guys quick. I think it's just because I spun it higher than I did the prior run. I still probably have to remove more fuel out way up top, but let's just compare these two here. So we're just comparing really just before and after here. So you can see it did not like the timing at all. It actually lost a little power right here and gained a smidge right here. It's very minute, but above like 6,800, definitely started nosediving, like it needed less fuel here. So I'm actually going to take, it's funny because this, I don't know if I did anything different. I really don't think I did, but it was richer, this whole pole. So I think that's why it lost down here. But regardless, it didn't make a ton more power. So I'm going to take the timing back out of it and just clean up the fueling one more time, and we'll turn the boost up. It held 11.8 air fuel all the way up top, and I revved it even higher that time just to make sure that the fuel wasn't going to dive rich, which it didn't. And we actually made way less horsepower. I pulled timing out. I'm gonna put the timing back in with that same tune, because the fueling was great that time, but it lost power. But I pulled the timing back out of it. Odd, weird. The engine was also colder, so I feel like I just need to hot lap it maybe and see if that makes a difference. It just sucks because whenever I'm tuning something, I always do like 500 things at once, and I don't know what is, you know, benefiting the car and what's hurting it. So it literally lost power everywhere though, the whole curve. So I'm gonna put that timing back in. I think that timing is what robbed us there. Working the brakes on the car a little bit hard. It's smoking. But it made smoking power that time. Now, like I said, it's been a weird thing where I don't know what the car wanted for timing because the fueling was rich. I feel like I'm kind of back and forth here, but I was trying to make a couple changes at once, and I feel like I put timing in it and it got really rich, and then I pulled timing because when I'm pulling timing here, it's changing the boost ever so slightly. Like, I'm talking like a half a pound or a quarter pound of boost. So that time, with the car hot, warmed up all the way, 178 degrees, it was 160 the last pull, I put the timing back in it and it stood way up. Like, it made a ton more power. just comparing the last 2 runs. So we'll compare the last 2 runs. With the timing in it and with it out of it, it made 10 horsepower, peak. But it picked up that horsepower everywhere. And you can definitely see above, you know, say 6,800 or so, the power's starting to fall. So now, I don't know if I really want to continue putting timing in it or if I want to just turn the boost up. I feel like this is a pretty good level of timing. I feel, you know, for this amount of boost, I feel like we should just turn the boost up a little bit to get more power instead of continuing to add timing. It is tapering the timing in as RPM increases. That's always kind of a good thing to do, especially on an engine that has small connecting rods and a small displacement. They don't really take too kindly to timing at lower RPM. But anywho, I'm gonna adjust the wastegate a little bit more and see if I can get a little bit more boost out of it just on the wastegate without putting a boost controller on it. So that's what I'm gonna try right now and see if we can get the boost a little higher, and then maybe we'll play with timing after that. If I think it needs it. I really don't think I think I just want to put boost in, leave the timing where it's at, and maybe we'll come back to it at a later date. But for now, I think I'm just gonna adjust that wastegate. All right guys, so I turned the wastegate. I lost the stupid E-clip that holds the wastegate rod onto the gate, so I hope it doesn't fall off. I'm gonna have to get a new E-clip. I lost it. It's so tiny. Oops. So we're gonna try it again. Hopefully it makes around 14, 15 pounds of boost. That's what I'm shooting for. And hopefully we can make more than 250 wheel. That'd be really cool. Well, boys and girls, you can see the wastegate rod just barely hung on that time. Didn't come off, but it did get a little sketchy. It almost fell off of the turbo there. So I definitely got to get a new E-clip, or I was hoping mine would rattle onto the ground after that pull, but I don't see it anywhere. And it's a little bit tight down there. But we did just make a good amount of horsepower. And sorry, I wasn't even filming myself. Let's just say that I turned the wastegate up a little bit, and I was watching the air fuel and it seemed like it was doing pretty good, so I stayed in it. And well, you can see the difference. The blue line is the new pole. We definitely gained some horsepower. So that pole made 265 wheel horsepower and 223 foot-pounds of torque. So that was at 6,600 and I think right around 14, 15 pounds of boost. I want to do one more. Hoping the E-clip will hang on one more time, or the wastegate rod won't fall off for one more pass. I might just put a vice grips on it or something for now so it doesn't fall off. I'm gonna do one more just to back this run up and make sure that it's still okay. And if it is, I might leave it at this power. I might turn it down a little bit just because I don't know how much power these things can take. But it is on ethanol and I'm very cautious on fueling and stuff like that. But yeah, she's making some stink. I like it. So it does have a little bit of smoking going on diesel. I don't know if that's the turbo or if it's something else, but it does smoke on startup pretty bad too. And I think it's valve seal related, possibly, because it smokes on startup and it smokes on decel. So anyways, it's still alive. It made one pull at 265. I'm gonna see if it'll back it up here and we'll go from there. So you can see me kind of running around in the background here, and I'm actually adding little mini vice grips to the end of the wastegate flap that is on the turbo, just so the wastegate rod wouldn't fall off. Even if it did fall off, it wouldn't be catastrophic. It just wouldn't make any boost, so I wasn't really worried, but I didn't want it to fall off. But in the meantime, adding that vice grip actually added weight to the flapper, so the boost to open the flapper, it actually required more boost to open it. So this pull here was actually the best pull of the night, and it ended up making about 2 pounds more of boost. So this is kind of like a cool little redneck way to up your boost if you want to, you know, make more boost and you're out of adjustment on the wastegate rod. Alright guys, so she was definitely spicy again on that pull. I saw a peak of 210 kPa, which is probably, actually I'll look it up so I'm not fooling you all. It's about 16 pounds of boost. So it might have, and it started, the thing is with this wastegate setup, it creeps like as it goes up. So initially it was like 12 pounds to 14 pounds, and then way at the top end of the pull, it started to gain boost, and it hit a peak boost of like 16 or so. And we made even more horsepower. I definitely got to figure out, and the thing is too, is I vice gripped the wastegate. So I'll show you. No oil coming out of the turbo. And I just put a vice grips on there so the rod wouldn't fall off. Because I feel like maybe if the rod was like dispositioned a little bit, or it was like almost falling off, that can definitely affect the wastegate and how everything works there. So I did just put a vice grips on it. I might back this down a little bit from this power level, but damn guys, she's making really good horsepower per pound of boost. I mean, like really good horsepower. I mean, we started off like 8 pounds of boost or so, making 220, and now on double that boost, so another like 8 pounds or so, 16 peak, we're making, fuck man, 278, it's bone stock, 1.6, and she's making good horsepower. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I can't wait to actually feel this thing on the road, because I mean, the last time I drove the car, it was on just like a basic street tune, and I didn't actually dyno tune it, and it made 180 wheel horsepower. I just picked up 100 horsepower, and 100 horsepower in this car is what it comes with factory. So just think of adding 80 horsepower, and it felt pretty good. It honestly was fun at 180. Now making nearly 280. So I added another 100 horsepower by putting it on the dyno and actually figuring stuff out. So like I said, I'm kind of nervous to run it at this power level, especially now when I just put the thing together. I probably should change the oil, because I drilled the pan and there's probably shavings and shit in there. So I may back it down a smidge to right around 250, just to play it safe. Like I said, I did see the boost gauge come up to like 16 pounds, and who knows, it might be safe at this power level. I don't know, but I'd rather enjoy it for a little while before I find that out, if you know what I mean. So, but I think I'm gonna park it there for now. If you guys know what the record 1.6 liter Miata power number is for like a stock engine, let me know. I might try to shoot for it, but I don't know what it is, and I don't know where they fail. I know Car Passion channel had a Miata, I think it was a stock 1.6, and he could not quite get 300 wheel. He got really close to 300 wheel, and then he said it started to knock. He said he started getting rod knock, and I don't know if it's because he hit the rev limiter or what the case was with that. I'm just trying to find ways around building the motor right now. I think I might build the motor for this, we'll see. But yeah, time will tell, guys, and I really want to just enjoy it at this power level, because man, it would be a blast, let me just say. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I think in the next video we may do some street pulls with the Miata and show you some other kind of cool stuff that's been going on in my life. That'll probably honestly be the next video, but I'm just gonna rifle some videos at you guys here, and hopefully you guys watch them all. And yeah, if you enjoy my channel, consider subscribing, like, blah blah blah, do all that shit. And we'll see you later. Have a great night and a better tomorrow. Peace.